Awkward silence ensues. Hey guys, this is Abby.
It's Galaxy.
And as you can tell, we're things.
Yeah, things happen.
Yeah, anyway, so today, well, I guess I should start explaining this thing right here.
Warning, there's graphic things and violence thing.
Oh yes, well, not really violence, but it's like gore.
Oh well.
Gore and mature subjects. Anyway, whatever.
If you can't tell by the picture.
Oh yes. So this is my OC Labradorite, and it's a very bad picture, but I don't care. Anyway, so we're gonna be reading the blog off of my Amino account.
Which, by the way, if you're trying to find us, put Abby or Galaxy / Stephen University.
/ not backslash.
Yeah.
Because those confuse me sometimes too. So anyway, let's just start because it's getting awkward. Anyway. Labradorite sat at her desk, working quietly, and suddenly she felt the need to cough. When she coughed, a flower petal flew out of her mouth. What the? She looked across the room to her co-worker Peridot, who was completely focused on her work. She had a crush on Peridot, and because only the two of them work in the room, yesterday she decided to tell her. She had not reacted well. She had called her a disgusting, defective clump of minerals. And threatened to report her. Labradorite had not been dragged off in the night, so she assumed Peridot had said it as a warning, or planned to report her later. Then she coughed again, about 5 or 6 times, and this time many petals came out. She picked one up and studied it. There was a strange red liquid on it. With a start, she realized it was blood. With tears running down her face from the fear, she looked over to Peridot, who now stared at her, visibly shaken and scared. Still looking at Peridot, she cried, "What's happening to me?" She could feel the petals now building up in her stomach, her lungs, her throat, her head, even her gem. She coughed, trying to get rid of the petals. She kept coughing, and a lot of petals came out, but she could still feel them more and more. Her gem felt like it was about to split open. She held her gem despite the fact that it hurt, and she cried and coughed up petals. All the while, Peridot just stared at her. It faded, and she couldn't see. Then she went numb and couldn't control her body or feel anything. All she could do was hear and cough, but her body was coughing for her. She heard a crash, and Peridot screamed, "Labradorite!" Then she heard someone, presumably Peridot, run across the room. She mustered the control to say Peridot's name, but instead it came out as Peridot. Then her hearing too failed her. After what felt like years in the dark void she was trapped in, she thought she heard a voice from the outside world. In fact, it sounded like Peridot. The voice said, "I love you too." Reasoning that this was probably her mind calming her in her last moments of life, she decided that if she was going to die, she might as well indulge herself in the fantasy. She dreamed of what life would have been like with Peridot and let her imagination take her. First, she dreamed of being on another planet, sat on the sand, on a beach, watching the sun set as Peridot lay curled up on the sand, sleeping peacefully with her head resting on Labradorite's lap. And she gently rubbed Peridot's gem, which, by the way, is on her left arm. Then she dreamed of her and Peridot walking through the kindergarten, holding hands. Then there was a blinding light, and she saw the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She knew she could never have it, but she longed for it. And when the dream ended, she forgot what it was, but she still felt the longing. From outside her mind, she heard Peridot say, "Please, Labradorite, wake up." She sounded heartbroken and like she was giving up hope. She thought about it, but could not find a reason for her imagination to have fabricated this. She no longer wanted to live. It hurt too much. She wanted to let whatever this was kill her. But knowing Peridot actually cared about her, she tried to cough up more petals and began to regain feeling in her body. It hurt so much. She wanted to stop, but knew she couldn't. She vomited again, this time feeling Peridot lift her into a sitting position, so she would not choke, then carefully lay her back down. When she felt like the Not many petals left, and the pain started to ease. She opened her eyes, and slowly, starting as pinpricks and expanding outward, her vision returned. Labradorite tried to sit up, but Peridot gently pushed her back down and said,
"You need to rest. Don't try to get up unless you feel like you're going to vomit again."
She nodded and asked, "How long was I out?"
"About 4 hours. For the first 2 hours, it was really bad, and I was scared. Then you started to cough and vomit up petals less, and I thought you were getting better. And you would be okay. But then it got worse than you had been before. I was sure I was going to lose you."
Tears were now streaming down her face. Labradorite carefully sat up and pulled her into an embrace. And as Peridot cried, she whispered, "Shh, it's okay, Peridot. I'm okay. I'm here." For a long time, Peridot quietly crying and Labradorite trying to hide the pain the remaining petals caused her. After they both let go of each other, Labradorite noticed there were 5 minutes before work ended. She tried to stand, and Peridot tried to help her, but she lost her balance and fell, bringing Peridot with her. They landed in the blood and flower petals on the floor, and Labradorite vomited blood and petals over her dress. She felt so embarrassed, and to make things worse, she felt a few tears spill down her face. She thought Peridot would laugh at her or call her disgusting, but she looked lovingly at Labradorite, then leaned forward and wiped the blood and tears from her face and kissed her on the lips with a hint of passion, like she was holding back so as not to hurt her. Pulled away, she stood and helped Labradorite to her feet. Labradorite no longer felt pain from the petals. She didn't even feel the petals anymore. "We should clean this up," she said, looking at the floor.
"Yeah."
Peridot said, now too, looking at the floor.
"I'll get the mop for the blood."
"I'll take care of the petals." While Peridot got a mop and cleaned up the blood, Labradorite picked up the petals and brought them down to the incinerator they used for technology that was too badly broken to be salvaged, despite Peridot's wishes that she would sit down and rest. After cleaning up the floor, Peridot, now appearing shy, asked,
Could I walk you home?"
"Of course." So they walked to Labradorite's dorm, avoiding being seen by other gems because they were both still covered in blood. After getting into Labradorite's room without being seen, Labradorite quietly closed the door and said, "Well, Peridot, since you're already here, why don't you stay the night?"
"I'd love to."
The end. See you guys later.
Boy.